We grew up on a hunting preserve, basically, if you want to look at it that way. A 120-acre farm in Wadsworth, Ohio, and our childhood was a lot like growing up in the mid-century 1800s, but with electricity. We had a big farmhouse. It was a working dairy farm, mixture of pasture land, some cropland, and some timber. And there was a creek that ran through it. Growing up for us, we remember our dad, grandfather were out in the farm, and butchering was part of that process as well as hunting and some fishing. But for the bearded butchers, it was a paradise because we were 8, 9, 10-year-old boys, and we could go out and trap, hunt, fish, whatever we wanted to do when our chores were done. We weren't working or doing school. This would have been in the mid to late 80s. And the reason why I say it was like a mid-century 1800s setting was we grew up without television, and we went to a little 2-room schoolhouse. And so for us, it was just a very practical way of living, starting out, and being really connected to hunting, butchering, and the outdoors.
Shut that other gate, that door. Shannon, get this gate here tight. Shannon.
I remember our dad he was a deer hunter, he was a farmer, he was a trapper, and there was always hides. He was tanning hides in our basement. We were eating some of the game that he had shot. Then you interject the great American bison. What's amazing about that particular animal is if you think about the native bovine to our continent, the American bison, and what that bison has done for this country, just in terms of the grasslands and the woodlands and that it once roamed. And then we know that they were nearly slaughtered to extinction. And then they made their triumphant return. But those prairies and grasslands that the bison once roamed, all their hooves went through and turned up that sod, and made it some of the richest prairie that was later settled, and unfortunately they were pushed out of. But in their great comeback, we got to be part of that, and our dad had a big part to do with that because he started raising the bison in right about 87 or 88. He transitioned our farm over from a dairy farm to a bison farm, and it was a pretty crazy transition for us, and that's what became the cornerstone of the butcher business for us. So our father had answered a classified ad at a local newspaper to caretake a bison herd, and the current owner of the herd went to the warmer climate for the winter, and he needed a caretaker, and this farm was just miles from ours down the road. And that first winter, our dad drove over there, fed the bison, made sure they had water, did all those things. And then eventually that led to him purchasing that small herd, which then became the seed of the bearded butchers.
They're more interested in come out. Of course, that's buffalo. Normally they come out and they just go round and around and around, all excited. You give them half hour, an hour, they'll realize they're somewhere different, especially the young ones.
And it went to the local butcher shop for slaughter. So we did that so we could sell the meat in some of the area health stores. And our father handcrafted a log cabin that he built right there on the farm. Took trees down on the farm, cut them down. He had his own sawmill. He sawed the lumber, and in the summer of '87, we built this hand-built log cabin, and that was our on-farm store for the bison meat. And during this era, we were around the butchering operation, but we were just there to take bison in, drop them off, and pick up the meat, take it back to our store for resale. But it was through this link to the bison and our pioneer heritage that we founded the White Feather Bison Company. And that white feather was a sign of peace that was granted to generations back grandfather named Reuben Perkins, who settled in the southern part of the state. And he was friendly with the native tribes and the settlers that were around him. And as a sign of peace, the Native Americans gifted him with a white feather that he hung over his cabin door. And that told other Native American tribes that this was a peaceful location. And that sign of peace got carried down through our family generations. And when our parents were starting the bison business, it seemed like a good link to our pioneer heritage with the bison to name the business White Feather. So it was White Feather Bison Company for the first 4 or 5 years. And in 1993, the owner of the butcher shop where the bison were getting butchered said that he wanted to get out of the business. And so our father acquired the butcher shop, and in 1994, just over 30 years ago, we became fully immersed in the butcher operation. We started working in there right around 12 and 14 years of age, and immediately we found out, just how difficult that lifestyle was, and it kind of cut into our ability to go out and enjoy some of the great outdoors with all the work that was involved. But we stuck with the grind, and over the years we were able to acquire some land in the southern part of the state where our family was originally from, and that's property that is beloved to us because that's our hunting grounds. But all throughout this 30-year history or 35-year history, the American bison remained the cornerstone of the Bearded Butchers, and this legacy that then became our father's legacy and something that we're living through today, and hopefully is a legacy that we can pass along to our children, is that legacy lived out through your connection to the carnivore lifestyle, the butchering, the chasing the game. Of course, for us, it's raising these bison, this cornerstone of our business. And so our daily operations to this day involve all these things that we have been so grounded to, and really all we really know are the farm operations that we have. We still raise and harvest the American bison right there out of our butcher shop, but we're able to leverage this 3 decades of experience of working in the butcher shop to know all the different cuts, whether it's domestic, wild game. We're able to come up with our right recipes and our spice formulations out of this setting, and this regional outreach that we have to our customer base, where we've had bison on our farm and bison meat offered for resale in our meat case for over 30 years. I don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere in the thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of bison that we've raised and harvested and offered to the public over these 3+ decades.
It's a cold morning at hunt camp. You got to get out of that warm sleeping bag, put on those frozen boots, get after that game.
So us hopping in the Renew Therapy cold plunge. So about 2 years now, Seth and I have been cold plunging. It started out with a stock tank that we had on the farm. We each got one. The winter, that's great. Sometimes that tank freezes, and then the summer you don't have a chance to cold plunge. But we found the Renew Therapy 3.0, and being butchers, we're used to being in a cold environment, and we have all this joint pain and using your hands, and you're on your feet all day. And we found using the Renew cold plunge has helped alleviate a lot of that inflammation. So we spend every day, the first thing we do in our day is we cold plunge. That cold water immersion helps that inflammation. You get that mental clarity, that sharpness that we need. So for the last 2 years, we've been starting every single day in the Renew cold plunge, or in a cold plunge, and now having the Renew cold plunge. Temperatures are as low as 37, and you can take it all the way up to 140 degrees if you want to use it for hot water immersion. As butchers,
As entrepreneurs, we found it's a really useful tool for inflammation, mental clarity, and just the best way to start your day. If you want to supercharge your day, this is how you do it right here. Woo! Gotta love it.
So for the Bearded Butchers, we embrace this lifestyle, this legacy of being around the things, especially the carnivore lifestyle, whether it's, eating clean, eating healthy. We've learned over the years that through the hours and hours that we've spent at the butcher block that we need to take care of our bodies, and we found that we can fight inflammation through cold plunging, and we've been able to elevate our fitness through team workouts and things like that. And we found as the years have gone by, we've been able to leverage all the things that we've learned from the lifestyle we grew up with all the hard work that we put in at the farm, being able to take all these tools, all this legacy that was built into us from the generations that were put before us, and we're able to take our time in history and we're able to live out this legacy. And we plan to by the grace of God, and is pass that legacy along to the generations that come behind us. And we hope and pray that for years and years to come, that the Bearded Butchers and all the traditions that we draw on and the traditions that we live out today become our final legacy. So we hope you enjoyed this piece, watching the Bearded Butchers and a little bit of their day-by-day activities and an abbreviated version of their history. And we want to encourage you too to find out the ways that you can live the legacy.